passing on through to join us again to talk the hottest team in America, the 6-0 Indiana Hoosiers. Sammy, last time we talked to you, you were about to become a father. How are you doing tonight? How's fatherhood treating you? How has the start to the season been treating you?
It's been crazy. Fatherhood's awesome, but it has had its challenges and all that stuff. But I think we're on a schedule and getting them into daycare and all that stuff. So it's starting to iron itself out, and then the season has been unbelievable so far. I know Curt Cignetti kind of called his shot. He wins, Google him, and all that stuff. You thought that there would be a turnaround. You didn't think that it would be beating everybody by 17 plus points kind of turnaround. You thought 6-0 was a possibility, but not like kind of like a far out possibility. You'd be okay at 4-2 or 5-1, but man, 6-0 going into Nebraska is has checked every box.
I went back and listened to our show from July this week because I wanted to kind of get a sense of where we were at the time, because I remember we were all relatively high on Indiana, and relatively high on Indiana certainly had a different meaning than what it does now back in July. And you said that exact same thing then was, is there a world they could go 6-0? Probably, but 4-2, I think that would be a pretty good start to the season. And it's just been remarkable to watch because it's not even like they're sneaking by these teams. It's just been a full-fledged ass kicking week after week after week, starts with FIU and all the way through this past week, obviously leading into the bye. I mean, they're taking it to teams. So Clinton, I'm sorry, I ignored you again. I'm just getting out over my skis here, but Clinton, how are you? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ignore you.
I'll make it quick. I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm repping my OU Bobcats for the Curtis Rourke love.
Maple Missile.
The Maple Missile. Boy is doing work.
I did not create that nickname. That somebody else created it. I think I don't know, but yeah. So whoever's lawyers are going to come after me for creating, I did not create it. It was from somebody else.
I heard it
one
on
of our
national
followers
podcast.
And then one of our followers also called him the poutine passer, which is also phenomenal.
That's great. I'm great, Mr. Ryan. Ryan, how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm just jacked up to talk about this team, man, because it's been so much fun to watch. I don't even want to call it the underdog story because it's legit. These aren't fluky wins, and it's just cool to see different teams get their turn in the spotlight, and I hope it continues. So just the big question first and foremost, Sammy, is just what's been the mood of the fan base watching this so far?
Man, they're like all in. It's crazy. I'm trying to come up with like a mental GIF for it. But maybe the Jerry Seinfeld smoking a cigar and nodding one. But it's been, the fan base is fired up. The students are fired up. IU just sold out their second game of the season today with the Michigan game selling out, and you're trending to sell out Purdue and Washington too. So, I mean, this fan base is fired up. You saw if you watched the UCLA game, that stadium is probably a third IU fans, and you saw at the end of the game, they were chanting Hoosier Daddy and stuff like that. And then at Northwest, the game at Northwestern, that was at minimum 50-50, if not more for IU. And first of all, that place is awesome to watch a game. That was a really cool venue. But your diehard IU football fans who show up every week, they're not many of them, but now they're traveling in full force. And you've seen, I mean, there were 6,000 IU fans at Northwestern, paying at least $129 a ticket to get in.
That was something I found very impressive when I was just perusing ticket prices, and I was like, $129 for Indiana and Northwestern? You asked that 10 years ago, and people are going to say you're high.
That was the face value of the ticket.
That's fantastic, though. I love that. And that's obviously Indiana dominant there. I feel like driving that price, but the unique experience of the stadium, plus Northwestern's had some spunk here recently. They've found something on offense. But you mentioned it, selling out this weekend, and then they're going to sell out Michigan. Like the fact that how this story could just play out so beautifully for Indiana. You're drawing Nebraska at home. You're drawing Michigan at home. What opportunities they have. You can't call beating Nebraska an upset at this point. Can you call beating Michigan an upset? I think in name only, not based on what you've seen this year. But I'm not an Indiana fan, but I am now. I'm excited. I'm so happy for you guys. Like it's exciting, man.
I mean, IU hasn't been underdogged in a game this year, and they're 6-0 against the spread, which is extraordinary. That just doesn't happen. So, yeah, their schedule, they played Western Illinois, who has 2 more wins than I thought they would have this year. And Charlotte, who's kind of been disappointing, and UCLA, who looks like a tire fire. But, everybody said, well, if you don't beat them by this much, the other person's going to win money. Well, they beat them by more than what the Sharps are saying and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't think it would be considered an upset against Nebraska. I think the line is IU minus 6.5. At the last time I saw it, I think I don't like using ESPN's FPI, but they're favored in every game on FPI except for Ohio State.
And we just watched an Ohio State defense that might be a little iffy this past weekend. So who knows? Who knows what the Hoosiers bring into Columbus in a few weeks? Might get a little spicy again like we did in 2020, man.
2012, 2013.
Yeah,
a lot of spicy.
I'm not remembering past 2020.
There was that 4 onside kick game.
Yes, I was at that game. I was at that game. I was like, what the hell is Urban Meyer doing? We're going to blow this game. No way. That was my first ever game I went to IU, and fans were great. I loved the experience. It didn't matter that we were from Ohio State. They were so inviting. And then the last time I was there, oh gosh, I forget what the year was. That one was not a close game. Indiana was having a ton of quarterback trouble. It rained, but fans were great. They were super welcoming. Yeah, they were so welcoming. I love visiting Bloomington. If the ride there wasn't so damn stale, I'd go more often. But the campus is phenomenal.
I-69 is open. The entrance, the exit off of 465 is open. It's phenomenal. It's life-changing. I live on the north side of Indianapolis, and now it takes me 75 minutes to get there door to door. It is life-changing.
I'm rerouting then the next time I go there.
There you go, man. Well, that's the cool thing about this too, is because last time Indiana was this exciting was that COVID year, and you couldn't even go and experience it in person. So you get the in-person factor now with the fans being there. But with this team so far, Sammy, what's been the most unexpected surprise, I guess is the way I want to phrase that for you? Like, where has this team exceeded your expectations in a way that you feel has been kind of most impactful to their success so far?
I think the unselfishness of the team, especially in this era when it's all me. I need the ball. I need carries. I need touches. I want to be making the plays on defense. And this team just does not care who makes the plays. The last couple weeks, it's been Elijah Surratt. Earlier in the season, it was Omar Cooper. Miles Cross, another Ohio guy, has had 2 unbelievable catches and some big games. I had a big touchdown against Northwestern. Miles Price has made plays. Keyshawn Williams has made plays. And then the running backs, they have 4 running backs who are basically all the same. They split their carries. And look, nobody's going to get 1,000 yards, but you might have 4 guys who rush for 500 yards. And then, it's such a luxury to have a guy like Elijah Green come off the bench with fresh legs and just run by everybody. And then on defense, you're seeing – the depth is not as much there as it is on the offensive side of the ball, but you're seeing the defensive line. Everybody's making plays, whether it's CJ West or James Carpenter, who's an absolute dog. Linnell Carr is making plays, and then Mikael Kamara, I think, is leading the Big Ten in tackles for loss and stuff like that. So it's not nobody cares it's hey, look, I ran my route the best I could. They double covered me. I'm happy that Surratt was open or stuff like that. So that has been the most surprising, especially in this day and age when it's all about me.
We spent a lot of time when you were with us in July talking about the quarterback, given the obvious OU connection, and your quote at the time was, he's a good player. I'm not saying that I'm expecting him to be Big Ten Player of the Year, but should we revisit that conversation? Because he's been awesome this year.
He has been, look, I had high expectations for Curtis Rourke. I wasn't going to put him on my Heisman list and stuff like that. And I think on our own preview pod, I said he'd be in the top 3 or 5 of passing in the Big Ten. He's exceeded that. He's back to, I think, the levels he was playing at Ohio in terms of health. And now he's in an offense that, look, Curt Cignetti and Tino Sinceri and Mike Shanahan, the offensive coaches, the last 3 quarterbacks they coach, all won Conference Player of the Year. And he's on track for that. Now, look, at IU, you're going to have to double what Dillon Gabriel does at Oregon, or, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt that somebody like that would get. But you look around the league, who's having a better year than Curtis Rourke? Billy Edwards? I mean, Curtis Rourke is having a phenomenal year, and he's stayed healthy, which is huge. Mm-hmm. So, and hey, look, I said there was no quarterback controversy. I said it's Curtis Rourke's job all the way. Everybody else said David Jackson had a shot. No shot.
You brought up just the unselfishness of this team, and I was looking up stats today. There are 5 receivers with over 13 receptions, 2 of them with over 20. You have the running back duo of Ellison and Lawson, who've combined for 738 yards and 13 TDs, not to mention the other couple backs that you brought up. This IU offense has just proven that they can attack you from a multitude of ways, whether it be through the air or whether it be on the ground. And Surratt is, certainly living up to his nickname of Waffle House, because he is open 24/7. And
there is no Waffle House in Bloomington now.
Oh my gosh. We got to fix that.
That's heartbreaking.
And I think the Steak and Shake that was there closed. So what is open in 24 hours? You know what? Just open a restaurant named Eliza Surratt. I'm always open, even when I'm not open.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Were we able to ink him up a Waffle House deal from somewhere else, at least NIL deal? That would be great.
That would be great.
Outside of Rourke, though, what has been the most impressive part of this Indiana offense for you?
Man, it's just everybody does the dirty work. You have Eliza Surratt, who's leading your team in receiving yards, and he's running up the middle as a pulling wide receiver, kind of fullback block. Zach Horton, who does not get a lot of catches and stuff like that, he's the heart and soul of this offense. He'll block, he'll put people on their butts, and is the key to the run game. And then if he's open in the passing game, he could catch the ball and make a move too. I think just the versatility of everybody on offense, the buy-in of everybody on offense, and the wide receivers block like hell, which is why these teams are running so well.
I mean, if you look at IU's offensive statistics, my words right there, they're averaging 47.5 points per game, 200.3 rushing yards per game, 315.3 passing yards per game, which is a total of 515.7 yards per game. Now, if we go back to even in that 2020 team, and Sammy, you cover this team way, way more than we do. When's the last time Indiana put up offensive statistics this much or this way?
Probably 2013 under Wilson.
Okay.
But it hasn't been this good. Wilson had those teams with 2013. You had Trey Roberson, Nate Sudfeld, and Cam Kaufman all kind of playing, and then you had Latimer, Shane Wynn, Kofi Hughes. I think Ted Bolsa was on that team too. Tevin Coleman, Stephen Houston, D'Angelo Roberts as your backfield. That offense was unbelievable. I think this offense is deeper. It might not be as skilled, but it is surgical in how they do it. And the most impressive part is that they go on these runs. You saw it against Maryland. You saw it against Northwestern. You saw it against basically everybody. They just put the game away. They'll go on a 24-0 run or 35-0 run and just boom, boom, boom down the field. All of a sudden, a 17 set, or take Northwestern, for example, 27-24 game, all of a sudden it's 41-27. You're going, how the heck did that happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just about to say, I think the thing that's impressed me most with this team is that killer instinct that they seem to have offensively. And I was going to cite that exact same example, that Northwestern game, because I had that pulled up in the quad box, and that was a close game throughout the entirety of the game. I thought, Northwestern fought back in that game, and then, you get the ball back, you get the touchdown drive to go up by 10, you get the defensive stop, and you just go, hey, we're not going to screw around. We go right down the field, and they put another score up there on the board to kind of salt that game away. We spent a lot of time talking about the offense here, but defensively, you mentioned a couple of guys. What's been kind of the key to this defense so far this year? Heading into Big Ten play, I mean, you get Billy Edwards to start Big Ten play. Well, UCLA we're going to ignore because they stink. But once you get back out of non-con play, you get Billy Edwards in that Maryland offense that's been pretty good this year, and I think that was probably, from a turnover standpoint, Curtis Rourke's worst game this year, but the defense kind of held serve and didn't.
No, they did more than hold serve. They absolutely dominated. They did not allow a first down, and Maryland, off of those turnovers, had -8 total yards.
Yes.
That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. I kind of, because I do the stats for the radio broadcast, and it's kind of like in baseball when the guy's throwing a no-hitter or a perfect game. You go, hold on, wait a minute. Let me go back and show, okay, damn, they haven't given up a yard. So the defense is opportunistic in that when they need to make a stop, they'll make a stop. Now, they've showed some cracks against Northwestern, but I think Jack Glaush is a lot better than people are going to give him credit for, and he's just going to develop. And he's a fast guy. Like, he's faster than I thought he was. And then A.J. Henning and their other receivers, Bryce Kurtz, is pretty good too. But that defense, Aiden Fisher and Jalen Walker are really, really good. And then getting the pressure from the defensive line, everybody's a great quarterback until somebody's in your face running it down and stuff like that. So they've pressured the quarterback. They've gotten sacks. They've gotten tackles for loss, and things like that. They haven't really gotten the turnovers, but they'll come if you put pressure on the quarterback.
Another thing with the defense, I felt like I've noticed in the games I've watched, and it's hilarious when I had there's been a couple times I've sent a Snapchat of my little 4 TV setup here, and one of my buddies says, "You have the Indiana game on?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. First of all, they have Curtis Rourke, and 2, they're good. Like, why are you not watching Indiana?" But I've been pretty impressed with their ability to tackle.
Yep. And here, I will blow your mind. They did not tackle in spring practice outside of the spring game, and they did not tackle in fall camp.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah.
But we all know the thing about tackling, it's a want-to thing, right? If you want to hit, you have to want to hit somebody and have to want to make a tackle. You have to be willing to get in the way of someone who may mow you over to make the tackle. That our defensive coordinator said that every single year I played high school ball. It's a want-to thing. It's a want-to mentality. You have to want to do it. And Indiana is willing to do it. And I think it's going to pay dividends in some of these upcoming matchups for them.
Yeah, the tackling has kind of slipped off in the last couple of games. I think as competition goes up, you're not going to make 100% of your tackles. But yeah, coming out, they limit the yards after catch outside of that A.J. Henning touchdown where he just ran by people. There's no real broken tackles that go, that 5-yard run that turns into a 50-yard run. There's no screen pass where you see a guy break 5 tackles and go for 40 yards and stuff like that. So that has kept this defense and, its feet on the ground all season.
Yeah, no defensive backs, just mistakenly biting on a stutter step, looking in the backfield and getting torched for 67-yard TD passes. I think the Oregon wide receivers are still running past Denzel Burke. So just saying. Anyways, back to Indiana.
Well, they need to do the Eli Apple, defense. Just grab the guy.
Yeah. Do something. Take the damn PI instead of just giving it up,
only
man.
15 yards.
My
man.
gosh.
You're getting beat, just grab him.
Yeah.
Before we pivot to the Nebraska game this weekend, Sammy, I had kind of a big picture question that I wanted to ask you because I've been thinking about this for, I kid you not, 3 weeks now. So, team sitting here at 6-0, which, based on kind of what we were talking before the season, it seemed like primary goals were, show that you're heading in the right direction, show improvement from last year, hit a bowl game. I think we can say those boxes have all been definitively checked through 6 games, right? So, we got half the season left. What are realistic, what is the headspace of the fan base here? Are we sitting here saying because you at least in my personal experience, I don't want to project my personal feelings on anyone, but you taste success and you kind of get that craving for it. So on the one hand, it's like, man, if you told us before the season we win 6 games this year, we'd be ecstatic. But on the other hand, if you tell us we go 6-0 to start, we're probably going to want a little bit more than that. What's a win total for this team at this point with where they're at that would be satisfying to the fan base? Is it hey, anything that happens at this point is gravy, or with how they looked, or are they saying, hey, man, we got national columnists writing articles about us saying you need to take us seriously in this national discussion. If we don't go 10-2, if we're not, 9-1, 10-0 going into that Ohio State game, we're going to be a little sour about that.
Well, as somebody who bet the over on their win total at 5.5, I'm completely satisfied right now.
Love when that cashes in early November or October.
October, the first weekend of October.
I don't know what month we're in right now.
But no, I had this discussion with a friend over text. He's actually an Ohio State fan, and he said, "What are your realistic expectations, through the rest of the season?" I said, if you go finish the rest of the year 3-3, 9 regular season, that's a monster year. Yeah, you're kind of disappointed and all that stuff. I think anything less than 9 is disappointing. You got to beat Purdue. None of this means anything if you're 9-2 going into the Purdue game, or 10-2 going into the Purdue game. Yeah, 9-2 going into the Purdue game, and you lose to Purdue. This doesn't mean anything. Great, you get to go to a good bowl game. But yeah, there's playoff talk, and I kind of put the kibosh on that just because there's so much politics in the playoff talk. IU will likely have to go 11-1. Which probably leaves them out of the Big Ten title game because there are a gazillion tiebreakers. And one of the tiebreakers is the guys in charge get to pick who plays. And who's the last person they're going to pick?
Somewhere.
Yeah. Who's the last team that they're going to pick is IU. Because, when in 2020, when Ohio State didn't play enough games to play in the Big Ten title game, the Big Ten changed the rules in the middle of the year. So we know how that goes. But it's... Yeah, you look at the schedule and you try not to look ahead. Let's get win number 7 and move on from there. And then you get Washington coming in for a 9 a.m. Pacific time kick, which I've seen people complain about. How could you give? Yeah, are you going to return that Big Ten check? Because this is what you wanted, right?
That's the deal you made with the devil there, my friends.
Yeah, you got to pay the price. That's the price of doing business. And then you go up to Michigan State, who we really don't know what Michigan State is. It's Aiden Childs could throw 4 touchdowns, or he's nuclear. That's what he is. He could throw 4 touchdowns, or he could throw 4 interceptions. So it's hopefully people get my baseball movie references. But yeah, and then Michigan State, you get Michigan, and who knows how checked out Michigan's going to be if they lose another couple games, if this Connor Stallion stuff comes out before then, and then you get a nice bye week. Then you go to Ohio State. They'll be locked in because they need to go 11-1, and then you finish with Purdue. So 10-2 probably leaves you out of the playoff, but you get a real nice bowl game. You get your first 10-win season. You get your 2 trophies back, and you get to go beat a quality team in a bowl game, for the first bowl win since 1991.
It's been fantastic. And you mentioned staying focused on this upcoming game. And I hit our guy up, Redcast Rob from the Go Big Redcast today, and just kind of got one of their vibe. And he replied, and then someone from their podcast also replied, just on their vibe coming in against this Indiana team. And what their point was, they feel confident about Nebraska's offense going against Indiana's defense. Their comment back was, we're curious to see what happens with Indiana's run game against our run defense. Again, we mentioned Indiana's averaging 200 rushing yards per game. Nebraska is only allowing 73.2 rushing yards per game. Now, Indiana has a pretty diverse running attack. Colorado doesn't run the ball at all. Illinois had some success against Nebraska, but they really haven't faced a team like an offense that Indiana has. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on kind of a little pushback or kickback on their thoughts of how this game may go.
Oh, it's going to come down to special teams, and they suck on special teams. And that's coming from a Nebraska fan. They've had they're like 4-9 on field goals. They've had at least 3 punts blocked and things like that. So those are the things that you can't do in close games and win. But we saw Curtis Rourke turn the ball over 4 times, and IU won by 20 some odd points. So crazy things happen. But Indiana's probably the best offense they've faced. They're multiple. If you take away one thing, they're going to hit you with another thing. It's Nebraska's depth is going to be tested. IU wears people down. We've seen it. That's why they go on these runs in the second half where the offense just grinds out is not the right word because that seems like they're struggling, but they just pound away and are relentless on offense until you see what they did to Maryland, and you had the sad Mike Loxley punt at the end of the game with like 2 minutes left that gets stuffed and blocked. Cignetti has made people quit. He made Mike Loxley quit. He made David Brown quit. So look, if Nebraska wants to come in here and say they're confident, great. Curt Cignetti does not care.
I mean, the dude stood at center court and pretty much just said F Purdue and F Ohio State. He has the confidence and the swagger.
He went to media. He went to media day and stood up there and said, when they're going to UCLA, somebody asked him, because it's IU's first trip out to the Rose Bowl since the 60s. He said, yeah, we're going to play in some old stadium. We're going to kick somebody's ass. and that's exactly what they did.
This is like the energy he infuses Indiana football with. I've never seen it as a spectator.
It has not existed. Now, I don't know about like the 1890s if somebody was up there, barking and stuff like that. But he is saying things that have not been said by an Indiana head football coach ever.
Well, kind of on Cignetti again. What about the comment we had 2 weeks ago? Guy from CBS saying that Cignetti's the next Nick Saban. What are your thoughts on that?
He also said he might not be at Indiana anymore. So, well, everybody's trying to put labels on something. It's in all sports, like, whatever's the next Jordan or the next Kobe. Just let the guy be himself. Just let him be himself. He's Kirk's. Yes, there are a lot of similarities to Nick Saban. He learned a ton under Saban. He runs his program like Saban does. But he's getting his break much later in life than Nick Saban. Indiana might be his last stop. He's 63. Doesn't look it, but he is 63. Does he and is he really going to go down and take Florida? You're going to give up a Big Ten job to go to maybe Florida State, who's not firing Mike Norvell, or UNC. Like,
Oh no.
no, you're not leaving the Big Ten, and you're not going to Florida. So you know what he said on a podcast today with IU's one of their collectives. Wife's happy. I have my 35-year-old recliner, which I love. I have all the resources I need here. Life is good. So
what about
well,
go
that's
ahead,
like
Ryan.
one of a fascinating conversation that I'm interested to see how it plays out over the next 10 years is with the amount of money and that money disparity between the Big Ten and the SEC and everyone else. And I've heard this conversation on national podcasts before. Is it going to be more advantageous for coaches to take what's, a quote unquote mid-tier Big Ten job, the not Ohio State, Michigan tier jobs, or going to one of these top tier ACC jobs where, in the Big Ten, you're going to have more money. And he's showing this year, man, like you don't have to be Ohio State to be in the playoff conversation in the Big Ten. So that's something that I'm fascinated to see how it plays out is, hey, at these Purdue's, these Indianas, these Michigan States, are these coaches just going to be like, guys, I don't need to go. I'm getting more money than you can give me. My assistant pool is good. I can recruit here. I can recruit the transfer portal well here.
Well,
I don't know that I have
think
a question
the key.
on this.
That's the key. Well, that's the key. I think the recruiting the portal is going to be key, like Northwestern. Northwestern has trouble recruiting the portal because of admission standards and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a school that you go, okay, maybe I'm better off at, a UNC, Florida State, Clemson. Look, but Florida State and Clemson are suing their conference. You're really going to get into that mess and all that stuff. But I mean, it's something interesting to follow. And then who knows with revenue sharing coming, schools really going to pay out tens of millions of dollars for somebody not to work for them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that changes too, because I think there are several coaches who probably would be fired already if that wasn't coming down the line.
Mm-hmm.
What is your insight? You mentioned talking about recruiting the portal. Well, let's talk just regular recruiting. What is the insight or the vibe you guys have on flipping Juju Lewis from USC? USC's kind of trending down a little bit, and the Hoosiers and Cignetti are trending up. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's been like that since July. It got hot for a little bit there in August, and you're like, okay, any day it's going to happen. We put an article in drafts and all that stuff, and it never happened. And everybody else wrote, "Oh, Juju Lewis to IU." We didn't touch it, and we didn't touch it for a reason, because if he doesn't come to IU, you look like an idiot. So it's still a possibility. I believe he's the only quarterback that they're recruiting at a high school. Now, at some point, he's got to make a decision. And then if he picks USC, IU's going to go back to the portal where they've had luck and try and find Curtis Rourke 2.0.
Yeah, certainly.
You have proof of concept you can show now too, man. That's the best recruiting tool is, hey, we think you can come and do it what this guy just did for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And Curtis Rourke will be an NFL draft pick and stuff like that. And he might be the guy who sticks around the league for a decade. But yeah, now his track record, I've done it at this level, and now I'm doing it at the top level.
Yeah.
One more question for me on this weekend, Sammy. Any, key matchup on either side of the ball that you're kind of, you mentioned the special teams, but, any position group where you're kind of looking and saying, hey, I think IU's going to be able to exploit this matchup?
Yeah, I think Nebraska's secondary, and they're aggressive, just like Maryland was, and IU took advantage of that too. IU just had so many weapons. If you want to take away Elijah Surratt, do it at your own risk, because Omar Cooper will be open, and Miles Price will be open, Miles Cross as well in there. So it's almost the matchup to watch is the battle of the coaches. How is Nebraska's defensive coordinator going to match up against Mike Shanahan, who's IU's offensive coordinator? But yeah, my matchup, the article we're going to write this week will probably be focused on the special teams battle, because there is such a discrepancy there in just productivity. disaster. I mean, if something goes wrong on special teams, it's a disaster.
Mhm.
Well, oftentimes we'll ask in some of these preview shows, and I had this one written down, but I'm going to flip it. Oftentimes we ask, Indiana wins this game if. I'm going to flip it, and I want you to answer it the other way. Indiana loses this game if what?
They don't score as many points as Nebraska.
Well, besides the obvious statement, yes.
Oh, Clinton,
Outside
you
of
walked
that,
right into that one.
I did. Outside
that's
of
my
the
go-to
obvious
it.
one.
That's my go-to answer on all of our keys to the game. Well, they score more points than the other team. IU loses this game if they don't block out the noise. You're coming in off a bye week with so much hype. You have big noon kickoff there. It's easy to be distracted. You have a sellout crowd. Everybody's been tooting their horn for 2 weeks now after the win at Northwestern, and it's just, how do you avoid that letdown? And if there is letdown, Nebraska's good enough to take the air out of that stadium by getting an early lead.
I mean, this is a super fun quarterback matchup. Raiola versus Rourke. The young guy versus the vet. It's going to be a great one. I am stoked. Ryan and I are going to West Lafayette on Friday night for the Oregon Purdue game.
I'm sorry.
Well, Purdue showed a little bit of life. I don't expect them to win, but crazy things happen in West Lafayette. Having been an Ohio State fan who witnessed Rondale Moore and all 5'6" of him work Ohio State, crazier things have happened. But I have to get up early to get home on Saturday, which is kind of a blessing because we have a birthday party that one of my kids can't go to. So my butt gets to sit in the chair and watch this Indiana game, which I am thrilled about. I'm so stoked that I get to miss the birthday party and watch football. So panned out nice for me.
Yeah, certainly did.
Well, that is all we have for you tonight, Sammy. Thank you once again for joining us. This is now 2 hours of your time that you have devoted to this little podcast here. We certainly appreciate you coming on to discuss our favorite team in the Big Ten, the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah, no, hold on to that Curtis Rourke Heisman ticket.
Yes.
Cash it out in December.
Yeah, there you
go.
All right, guys.
For
thanks for having me off.
Listen, anytime, Sammy, we appreciate it. We love our Hoosiers fans. You're the summer preview we did is still our most downloaded episode of all time. So the Hoosiers fans have a special place in my heart. I love that
hopefully they blow this one up.
Yeah, right. I love that we get to have this conversation, and hopefully we get to keep having this conversation over the next couple of weeks. So I'm excited for this game this weekend. I speak for Clinton too. I know he's excited for it. And we'll be back with you guys Thursday night for our pick show. We'll be picking this game along with a couple of others. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see y'all on Thursday.
See ya.
See ya. Thanks.